Everyone can hear me, so let's get started. So, as you can see, I'm quite sad, so I have added Christmas hats to everyone, including myself. What I would say is that, so the people on the front here, we're going to talk about anyway, but on the left, we've got Ellie Rossiter. And in fact, Ellie was hoping to and planning to join us tonight on the seminar. But actually, funny enough, her deadline for handing in her master's dissertation is today. So I think I'll let her off that. And she will be with us at Needham tomorrow for the women's trial. So obviously that'll be great for all you female players to be able to chat to one of our recent female athletes that have been out to America, graduated and come back. But again, I'm not expecting a good performance if she does get on the pitch herself, because last time I spoke to her, I think it was just a no sleep and coffee diet for her trying to get that done. But obviously all our athletes are, they're not leaving it last minute like Ellie, so that's a good thing. What I would get to there as well is Matt Bentley, who is sporting the other fetching Christmas hat there. For those of you who follow us on social media, you might be familiar with both of them anyway. Last thing I have to mention from a marketing perspective, because I often forget, is do follow us on our social channels. But what I would say is now more than ever, it's never a better time to do it, because there have been trial games that have been cancelled or moved or updates. And also just what we're going to talk about, college sports in America is constantly evolving as well. So that is, a great way to get the most up-to-date information about that. I have talked too long, so let's get cracking straight with the seminar. As I said, I have got my little message chat down here, so feel free to ask me anything throughout, and my colleagues will also let me know. Also, colleagues, please let me know if anybody is trying to get in. I don't want to be a bouncer on the door and not let anyone in. So first and foremost, we cannot start without talking about COVID. I know we've all had enough of it, as if Brexit wasn't enough at the beginning of the year. COVID has had a big impact on college sports, what we do, recruitment, placement of players. So I'm going to go through this real quick because I've done it on previous seminars and we've come quite a far way since the beginning of this. But initially, Donald Trump said European or international students could not enter America or re-enter America or stay in America if they're already there on a student visa if their university wasn't employing full-time classes and education. So if you had 50-50 split between online classes and having to be there physically, unfortunately that wasn't enough. You would lose your visa status. And no surprise, that was not received well at all. And in fact, within 48 hours, that decision was rescinded when a lot of global giants and big universities who are reliant on scholarship and income and funding from international athletes and international students threatened to sue the US government. So that was a U-turn on that. And then obviously a lot's happened with Trump since that decision. The US embassy has been closed during lockdown, then reopened and then closed again, now is accepting appointments. As you can imagine, the US embassy in London gets literally hundreds of thousands of applicants through their doors to sort out visas every year. So if you shut somewhere like the US embassy for months, the backlog is crazy. However, I've got to hand it to them. They're doing really well because we've got guys and girls that are looking to go out next year, and they're booking their appointments now and they're getting it within the next week or so. So yeah, really good stuff that what could be a stumbling block isn't proven to be. But kind of the biggest thing, as I said, we're here to talk about soccer tonight, is that the full season, so soccer is a full sport in America, it would have typically taken place from like September time until around November, December time. Because of COVID, schedules getting cancelled, games getting moved. Some teams still did have some form of season, so maybe like a smaller, more condensed season. However, it wasn't a usual season that you'd expect. Therefore, anyone who played in that has not lost eligibility, but now they're looking to take that season will take place in the spring, so starting in January. As you can imagine, that has had a direct impact on a lot of teams in terms of their scholarship. Yes, there have been scholarship cuts from COVID. And yes, if I was a senior and I was going to graduate, but actually I think given the current state of the market, or if I was looking to go and potentially be a professional at the end of it, maybe I should defer my graduation and play another season. Therefore, if I was the coach at that school, I wouldn't have the same need for a player in that position, maybe for another season. So there's definitely been an impact there. Although the caveat to that also is that we are still placing players for next year every single week. So, you know, if you're a good enough player and the grades are good and we can find the right school for you, it's still going to happen. But I would say that it's slightly more challenging environment than in a normal year. Although the flip of it is that I expect it to be just as good, if not better, going into the following year when you've got almost double the amount of players losing that team. So whether they might have had 2 graduating, now they might have 5. So unfortunately, there's a bit of a timing challenge there, but overall it's going to be absolutely fine. And the appetite for top international athletes is there as much as ever. Okay, so another very cheesy picture there of one of our athletes in a hat. So first and foremost, why would you look to go to America on a scholarship? I think the fact that you guys are joining us tonight, either yourself or your child or your parent, has a pretty good understanding about how big college sports are in America, how amazing a lot of the university and institutions in America can be. But I think even though we all realise how big America is, it's not really, when you look at the number of universities and schools, you really do comprehend the scale of it. So over 4,500 universities and colleges in America, which obviously dwarfs what's in the United Kingdom. And there's over 600 universities last year that gave over $20,000 scholarship each year, so athletic scholarship. So I'm not a mathematician, but if you put those numbers together, you're talking huge money just for playing sport for your university. And I'm sure the parents who are on here and watching will want to see the third stat, which is that over 95% of athletes in America on a scholarship are paying less for university than if they went in the UK. I shall talk about costs very thoroughly a little bit later on, but I don't want to lose your interest too early on in that. I'm sure it can be a bit of a dry topic to talk about finances for the whole 45 minutes. So again, you only need to go on YouTube, look online. Obviously, technology is amazing nowadays. It means that we can do things like this online, but also you can have such good access to virtual tours of universities. So look online. You know, if you look at the top 20 universities in the world, there's at least going to be 10 of them that are American. So it speaks volumes to the level of education and the type of degree that you can potentially get from this experience. And again, you only need to see like the March Madness with the basketball. I think that brings in like 80% of revenue for the NCAA as a regulatory body. Shows how big it is. American football, it wouldn't be unusual for there to be 50, 60,000 people in attendance for a college game. So yeah, the size of college sports and the popularity is absolutely huge. A lot of our athletes are playing in front of thousands every week during the season, having games on ESPN, flying to games. You know, the experience is unbelievable. And maybe from a biased perspective, but I just don't think there's anything in the UK that can quite deliver what an American university experience can. And I'm sure for those athletes listening, yeah, there's great things like the fact that you can go to spring break and you can visit, whether it's Miami or Cancun or Florida or all the top hotspots very easily while you're out there, even if you're not studying or living in one of those states as well. And I'll talk to you a little bit about my experience today, but try not to do it too much because I'll probably bore you with it again at the trials. Is that I was able to go to university in Chicago for 4 years at a top 100 school. We won the conference 2 out of the 4 years. And my degree overall for tuition, food and housing was worth $160,000. And I came out completely debt free. My alternative at the time was looking to go to a university in the UK, such as Loughborough is a good sporting uni, or like my sister go to uni in London. And you know, you could be in debt for the next 7-8 years. So for me, financially, it was an unbelievable opportunity. But also, you know, at that age, the experience and the opportunity to live in somewhere like Chicago, to go to over 20 states in 4 years, to be back in an environment where I was training every day, I was fitter than I ever was before, playing as much football, but also ultimately getting a degree that would set me up for the next step in my life. And ironically, has led to this, where I'm starting my own business. And, you know, fast forward 8 years, there's over 50 of us working for the company. So hopefully that's given you a good insight why this is an unbelievable opportunity. I shall talk very quickly about the different regulatory bodies and divisions, because even for some of our players, I know it can be quite confusing. But in the most simplest form, when we talk about 4-year universities, and we're talking about sports. We're talking about the NCAA, so the first column there, and the NAIA. So as you can see, they're quite different in terms of sizes. So NCAA has 3 divisions. Key point here is that Division 3 does not give athletic scholarship. Only Division 2 and Division 1 do. Therefore, we would predominantly work with Division 1 and Division 2. As well, it's worth mentioning that you cannot get relegated or promoted. The university does not get their Division 1 or 2 status based on how good their men's or women's soccer team is. It's based on, you know, size of student body, teachers, campus, facilities, various different factors, but one of them is not how good your soccer team is. So the reason why I mention that is some people think, well, I want to play D1 because obviously 1's better than 2. That's not always the case. There could be top D2 programs that could easily beat D1 programs as well. And that's not me against placing someone at a D1 program. We've placed hundreds of athletes at D1, D2. But it's just about keeping an open mind going into the process. And as you can see, there's over 1,200 universities that give sports scholarships in the NCAA. So plenty of different options and plenty of pros and cons to all those options as well. More sports, as you can see, a huge amount of athletes, almost 500,000 across the different sports, and about 100,000 scholarships available. So as you can see, it's super competitive. So I know when I looked at the process, I was super naive. I thought, start the process a few months before. I'm good at football, or so I thought. I'll get interest and offers, go out to America. Brilliant. I actually left it too late and had to take a gap year because I hadn't done things like entrance exams or registered for eligibility centres, got cleared by admissions, all these things that it's pretty ironic given that now we provide that service, but I just didn't get that support at all from the company that I went through. So yeah, it's important to start the process as soon as possible if you are looking to go and you're committed to the idea of it, because not only are you competing against all these high school American athletes that want a scholarship at a university, but every other country, you know, there's a huge influx of players from Asia, from Africa, from Europe, you know, literally all across the world. So you only have to look at some of the rosters, you know, go online, look at the rosters, you'll see there's plenty of international players out there. GPA, basically, as long as you're averaging above a C grade average, you should be fine to go to a US 4-year university. And the SAT is an entrance exam where it's done on a sliding scale, which I do think doesn't make sense at all. Basically, the better grades you've got at high school, the lower you can get on the entrance exam to be eligible. But surely, if you're more academically inclined, then it's going to be easier to get a better score. But it is what it is. And that being said, moves me nicely onto the NAIA. I actually played at an NAIA school. Smaller governing body, so only 250 schools, and often in smaller locations. However, I actually I was living in downtown Chicago, so yeah, it was an unbelievable experience for me. As you can see, not as many athletes, but the ratio of scholarship to athlete is higher. So therefore, from a financial perspective, the NAIA can be a great opportunity there as well. I'm kind of living proof of that because I was able to go to a school for 4 years and come out completely debt free. So that's the 4-year schools. And as you can see with the SAT and the ACT, which is the European equivalent of the SAT, is that they've got set scores for what you need to get. That's out of, just to kind of put that in context, that's out of 1,600. So you're looking at around 55 to 60%. And again, don't worry, because as part of our service, we provide all the practice exams and resources that our athletes need to make sure they feel confident with the exam. And then moving on to the last column is NJCAA, another acronym just to confuse you further. And they're 2-year schools, also known as community colleges. And for those of you, if I'm sure you've all been watching plenty of Netflix during lockdown, do go on there. There's a great series on there called Last Chance U, which is all about some American football community colleges. And basically, it's a great springboard for athletes who maybe aren't the most academically inclined. Doesn't mean they're not top athletes. And many athletes from community colleges have gone on to become professional sportsmen and women. Is that, you know, it's financially cheaper, because as you can imagine, if the schools aren't as academic, they're going to be cheaper. So if you compare a local college near you in the UK to Oxford or Cambridge, naturally it's going to be a lot cheaper in terms of housing and food, even if the tuition's similar in the UK, whereas obviously in America there is no, standard cap on tuition. similar size to NAIA, so over 50,000 athletes within there, and as you can see, a lot of scholarships too. So as I said, the NCAA is the most well known, and a lot of athletes that go on to become professionals do come from NCAA schools. However, there are unbelievable scholarship opportunities available in the NAIA and also at 2-year schools as well. So if you're listening and you're thinking, well, I'm not the most academic and that is a concern of mine, well, don't worry, because the NJCAA could be a good route for you. Go there for 2 years, get your grades up, do well on the field, and we can then transfer you to a 4-year school for your last 2 years, so an NCAA or an NAIA. So a common misconception is somebody thinks, well, I don't want to do 6 years out there by doing 2 years there and then another 4. No, it would still be 4 years total. And the key thing is your degree comes from where you finish, not where you start. So whether you do 4 years at a 4-year school or you just do your last 2, that's where your degree is going to come from. So great opportunities across all of these regulatory bodies. We've talked about the entrance exams very quickly, and I don't want to scare any of you off, but I'm sure you'd all love the idea of doing a 4-hour exam of English and maths. But for every single athlete that's at a 4-year school in a normal year, would have to take an entrance exam and pass it in order to be eligible. The reason why I say a normal year is due to COVID, there's been a lot of test date and test centres closed. Therefore, they have waived, a lot of schools have, and the NCAA have waived the need for an SAT exam. To be fair, all the divisions have for spring, but then NAI haven't quite made a call on how that will look for fall next year. But we have still been recommending that all our athletes do take the exam if possible. There is one in December, which has just passed, and then the next one isn't until March. So if you were looking to go out 2021, I would say it's super late in the recruitment calendar. It's not impossible, but it could be beneficial to look to register for that March exam. You might not need it, but even though the NCAA or the NAI might say, well, you don't need it, if the university you're looking to go to says, well, we do, then you're in a bit of a pickle because you might lose out on an offer. So we've been saying to all our athletes, best to do it. And if you don't need it, well, I think it's a good prep for American education anyway, because it's very similar to what you'll be finding out there. And for like me, I hadn't done maths for like 2 years. So it was a great reason to kind of pick that up again going into university. So yeah, we can talk about that more. But as I said, we've got all the practice exams and resources that you need on our website as well. Just checking that everybody is all good here. Okay, so again, I won't talk too much about us as a company. The fact that you're here, you probably know a bit about us. You've been on the website, but as I said, we've been operating for almost 10 years now. We work with over 2,500 universities and colleges in America. We've managed to secure over $20 million in scholarship for our athletes, successfully placing over 600 athletes at universities and colleges in America. And as I said, what started as a very small company, there was only 4 of us who all ironically had really bad experiences using companies that supposedly provide services like us, but didn't quite, inspired us to want to provide services that we would have wanted as athletes. And just really lucky and proud to, further down the line to have over 50 people working for us in different capacities. So it's all going really well. And it's a real privilege to be able to kind of help the next generation, knowing that I'm too old and slow and just haven't got it anymore to be able to do it myself. So it's great to see the next generation and people like Ellie, who'll be at the women's trial tomorrow. She's one of our athletes we sent in 2015. So how amazing for us to think she's used that as a springboard to not only get her undergraduate degree, but she's now doing her master's degree as well. And even in my experience, which I'll talk about it in a minute, is that I didn't even imagine myself getting a degree, and I ended up getting a master's degree as well. The key thing about us is we're experienced. As I said, we've been through this process ourselves. I barely had internet, but I definitely listened to a presentation about 12 years ago and decided this was what I wanted to do. And so, I've sat there, I've taken that information in, I've been through the process myself. So I think that's a big helpful part of it. We're connected and trusted in the sense that We work with every single sports scholarship given university in America. So when we first started, we would have to be pushing players out to schools and be saying, you know, here's Ellie, she's a great player, you know, are you interested in her? But as you can imagine, we've got a reputation now for sending top athletes that are top students as well. And therefore, you know, coaches ring us up and say, look, I'm looking for a right back next year. I can offer this. Who would you recommend? So there's a lot of obviously value in that. And then the key thing for us is the personal touch. So when I went through the process, I was one of probably about 300 lads that went out to, well, not definitely didn't go out to America, but was signed up to the process with a company, and very much just a number and a clog in the wheel. So it was that didn't have any account management. I didn't even know what an SAT exam was. I missed the boat for going out the year I wanted to. I had to wait another year. The way that we operate is completely different to that. So we actually restrict ourselves to only 25 players per sport, per gender a year. The reason being, as you can imagine, with any agency, if you took a football agency, if they're representing 25 players, then you'd like to think those 25 players are going to get well represented. The minute you start diluting it, are they really going to be able to promote, you know, 20 right backs to schools? You know, how are you going to feel if you're the 8th right back that they're promoting? You know, you're not even the top 3. So we are super selective. We get over 5,000 applications a year across all sports, so we can afford to be picky. It works well for us because we never have any problem filling our cohorts. We also get a reputation for sending the best student athletes. And then obviously the main benefit for you as an athlete is, you know, you're going to get that personal care throughout the whole experience. And the stars on the slide there, we've got a Trustpilot page, and feel free to read reviews from other athletes that was, you know, sent out to America already. That is a terrible picture of me, and in fact I'm quite happy there's a hat on there, because I think it's hiding a terrible, I know you're probably looking at my hair now and saying, well, that quiff's, you know, quite Jimmy Neutron and pretty tragic anyway, but I'm sure under that hat is a worst hairdo. And I also couldn't grow a beard back then either. So I don't really want to sit here and bore you about my background, but essentially I was someone who played at Ipswich Town for a long while, had 4 knee ops, got told I couldn't play again, thought, okay, I'm just gonna have to go to uni in the UK, and then got the opportunity to go to America, which completely changed my life, because there's shorter seasons out there, which suited me great. The weather was great. I was able to play 4 years injury free. As you can see from the stats there, you could argue that the goalkeepers aren't great, but I did quite well, got 61 goals in 69 games. I was voted for NAI Academic All-American Athlete of the Year for 2011 and 2012. Yeah, which was I was pretty proud moment back then, but I'm going to take the years off soon, because I'm sure there's some of you that when it gets to any players that I'm sending that weren't even born in the year that I got those awards, they will come off. But in all seriousness, I said, unbelievable opportunity, went to over 20 states, was flying to games, played on ESPN, played against future professionals, internationals. Just having the opportunity to train every day was amazing. So being at Ipswich, I then played semi-pro for a year before I went out to America, and being a tall, slow forward, just winning flick-ons and playing in front of a man and his dog, you know, that wasn't for me. So being out in America where it was warmer, playing in front of thousands, training every day, strength and conditioning coaches, flying to games, hotel stays, for me, it was absolutely unbelievable. And as I said, I did fairly well academically. I graduated with a perfect 4.0 grade point average, and then went on to get my master's, something that I never thought I'd have ever done. So for me, it literally was a life-changing experience, and I'm happy to talk about my football career, because I'm never going to play again. Just got to accept that. But yeah, hopefully you'll see me as an example of someone who I didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life, and for me, America completely changed that. Okay, let me talk about people who aren't me. And here's some of the key people on our team. I've already mentioned Ellie a bit, and there's a few slides about her later, which she was going to talk through, but I'll happily embarrass her and big her up while she's not here. Other people on here, James Ward recently joined the company, and we're really excited about James coming in. He's got very good experience in the industry. He did a master's degree at Carson Newman, which is one of the top NCAA Division II programs. So he's been through the process himself as well. So he's based in Cornwall, so lucky him, he's in Tier 1. But also the exciting thing about that is we're actually going to hold a men's and women's trial game in Cornwall in April. So mark that one in your diary already. We are, because it's more exciting than doing one in Norfolk or Suffolk. Not to dampen the mood of this weekend's trial games, because we're just excited the fact that they're going ahead. As I said, Suffolk and Norfolk are tier 2, so there are restrictions in place, but not like other counties throughout the country. As I said in my emails and various other emails we've sent out, obviously we're going to strictly adhere to all government restrictions and regulations and protocol tomorrow and on Sunday at the trials. So social distancing, hand sanitizers, temperature checks, masks, just to make sure that you can play and enjoy yourself in the most safe environment as possible. Other people on here, Holly is actually in her 4th year. She's still in America at Oakland University in Michigan, which is an NCAA D1 school. And yeah, as she's getting towards graduation, she also wants to, like us, help the next generation of players. So she'll be coming on board and actually working for us out in America, which is a really exciting development. And yeah, I wasn't talking about Ellie, but as I said, there's a few slides later. Billy works for us at EDSV, one of our partners in Hertfordshire, and I think there's a couple of you on the call that do actually play at EDSV as well. And then just getting some abuse from one of my colleagues who hasn't made the slide. I always get abuse. Unfortunately, there's only 8 slots here. It changes everyone, and I'll make sure that they're on the slides next time. And then Shane works for us out in Dublin in Ireland, and Tommy actually played in Major League Soccer for Colorado Rapids, now plays for Colchester United, and also works for us as an ambassador. And then for those of you that will be at the trial game on, so if you're there tomorrow, you will see Ellie. Hopefully she'll have recovered from submitting her master's degree. And on Sunday, you'll see Andy, who heads up Football Industry College, which is one of our really exciting new partners. And we've already placed quite a few of their players already. Moving on beyond kind of key partners that I've already discussed there, we work, as I said, with the various colleges across the divisions. We work with MLS clubs such as New York Red Bulls, Chicago Fire, Philadelphia Union. Work with a variety, so you're talking from professional through to semi-professional. And here in the UK, because our trials obviously are Norfolk and Suffolk, just examples, we do work with Ipswich Town, Colchester United, top semi-pro clubs like AFC Sudbury, Lowestoft. So yeah, a real host. Also got Colford on there, which is an independent private school. So yeah, various different partners, and the reason why it works with all these partners, they have a similar business model, or philosophy, or approach to football and education, which is taking them both seriously, and they're all producing top student athletes. So it works really well for us. Okay, so talking about our services, and wary of time as well, obviously already 37 minutes in, is that if you are on here, you've already done the application, so that's great, or your child's done the application, and you're eligible either because you're still in education, your grades are good enough, or from a football perspective, you're playing at a good standard. For those of you that you haven't already seen, this weekend is a perfect opportunity for that. Once somebody decides that, what, this is definitely what I want to do, I want to go ahead with the process, you would have a designated rep. So it might be me, or it might be one of my colleagues that I've just shown you there on those slides. And we're there from the day that you sign through to when you graduate to be your point of call. So to help you through all these steps before going out to America. But the key thing is also providing that service while you're in America as well, which is something that I didn't get myself. So kind of the process for that, as well as having a designated rep, I'm going to talk to you a little bit later on as well. We have like an athletes area, which has all those resources that you need. But there's also a coaches area on our website. Feel free to check it out. You can't actually log in, but just chuck that disclaimer in there because it is for American coaches. But if I skip forward, this is what an American coach would see. So I can search players by sports, gender, position, what they want to study, when they're looking to go out. Click on the player's profile. It opens up the example here to the right of Jake, who's now going into his 2nd year in America. It's got that 5 to 10 minute highlight video of all your best bits. As you can see there, we use top equipment to film our trials, and also to get players filmed as well. And then on there will be all your athletic background, all your academic background. And then a key thing for me is when I went through the process, that was pretty much as good as it got for me. It was just luck if somebody found me. And on there, it also had how much I could afford per year to contribute towards the cost, which put me at a real, as a real disservice to me, because, if I'm a coach and I know Jake could afford $7,000 a year, I'd be an idiot to try and make, as a coach's perspective, try and make it work so it's lower for him in his first year. So the way that we operate, we'd never disclose what a player can afford. We go to bat for them as if they can afford nothing or very minimal. And that does give us extra work because we're negotiating with different schools, trying to leverage and kind of act like an agent to get the best possible deal. But, you know, if that can save Jake, for example, 2,000-3,000 in his first year, it could potentially save him 12 grand over the 4 years. So it's a really important part of that process. We have like a joint WhatsApp group with the parents and the player as well, where we have pretty much weekly touch points throughout the whole process. As you can imagine, once a player's profile also gets circulated to coaches, that can really ramp up to where myself or one of my colleagues might be annoying you on a daily basis. So apologies for that. But the key thing for us is to be there for you throughout the whole process, because a lot of it can be confusing. So if you've got any questions, feel free to ask, and also to make sure you end up at the right school, because it can all happen real quickly. And a school might make an offer that might be gone the following week, then one might come in. As you can imagine, as much as you might be talking to 10 coaches or 20 coaches or 30 coaches, you can definitely bet that they'll be talking to 20 or 30 players as well. So it comes back to it being obviously super competitive as well. And then the next thing is highlight video. So again, when I went through the process, I played in a terrible trial game at Glasgow Rangers, and the weather was really, really rainy, even for Scotland. And yeah, it just wasn't a great game. So, and that was all I had to go off. So the way that we operate is we realise a trial game is difficult. Everyone's trying to impress. You're playing with people you haven't played with before. And so therefore it might not be the best environment to showcase yourself in the best light. Therefore, you know, it's good to get a good indication of where you're at in terms of a player. We can get some clips from it, but if we feel that we need to get more, we can just arrange for you to get filmed as well. Yes, that's proven more difficult lately, where a lot of fixtures are getting cancelled, but where possible, we will look to get that footage, because as much as we have those contacts with coaches at schools, you know, I could say, you know, Ellie's the most amazing player in the world. Honestly, she's going to be, you know, a future professional, a superstar. If that video footage doesn't match up with what I'm telling them, then there's only so much you can help push a player. So that highlight video, you know, is going to be crucial for that. Beyond that, as I said, providing the SAT support. So given I'm saying that, let me just quickly skip forward to the athletes area. So there's like a checklist. So like day one, Ellie, for example, you've signed up. This is everything you need to get done before you head out to America. And on each stage, you can click through and there's more information, videos about that. So here's an example where you've got the SAT registration page. We've got videos, we've got practice exams, the same for the ACT. We also have a partner who can give free SAT tuition as well. So basically everything online helps you with that. And then also you have the designated rep to kind of be your liaison and liaise with schools and make sure that everything is progressing as it should do. While I'm on here also, I will say with what we launched this year, which is pretty revolutionary, and I don't use that term lightly, for the industry, is the university database. So again, when my video was put live back in 2008 and these schools started to contact me, I didn't have a clue which school was good, what divisions were. I'd never been to America before. And yes, we did have Google just about, but it wasn't as comprehensive. You weren't able to watch virtual tours or anything like that. So the university database, which we've created, is hundreds of universities online where you can search by state, division, sport. You can watch campus videos, you can learn more about the schools or even the coaches that are there as well. So it's essentially, again, coming back to it, trying to give our athletes what we would have liked as a student ourselves. So that will continue to evolve, continue to add universities, different sports. We've even got UK universities on there as well, because as you can imagine, some athletes might be exploring both America and the UK at the same time. So that's a really exciting development for us, and something, if I just skip forward, you can see a screenshot from that, just reinforcing what I was saying. So by how you can search hundreds of schools all in one place. Okay, so going beyond that, if you're looking to go to a 4-year school, so the NCAA or NAIA, you would also need to get cleared eligible, that you haven't been a professional and that you've been in continuous education, although you are allowed up to 12 months out as a gap year. It sounds like you can describe it in 5 seconds, but getting cleared by an eligibility centre will take you months. And again, this is why we say the earlier you sign up, the less stress and the better chance you have got of getting the best school, because you know, they need to have copies of your qualifications, they need to get processed, timelines, They need to look at your playing history. So it can take a long while to get cleared. So we're there to support our athletes as well. And then looping back again, as I said earlier, it's best to then think of us like an agent. You know, we're going and talking to those various schools. So we'd send you a school questionnaire. You tell us what states you'd prefer, what you're looking to get from the experience, any preferences beyond that. And then obviously our aim and our goal is to try and find a school that matches that criteria, that's a good fit for you academically, athletically, financially, location wise, coaching wise, facilities wise. As you can imagine, with over 4,500 universities, it can be mixed on each of those factors. So it's just finding that one school that ticks the box for all of you. And yeah, we're just acting like an agent at that point. And then, you know, before COVID hit, a lot of our athletes might narrow it down to 2 or 3 options, and then maybe fly out to America, visit them all in a week, and then decide where they want to commit to. So we can help with that process. Unfortunately, I know it's Christmas time, but we won't be paying for your flights. But there's quite a lot that goes into arranging an official visit, so we can help with that as well. And then beyond that, once you decide to commit to a school, it's worth mentioning, as well as the online platform, we also have like a shared Google Drive with our athletes, where there'll be like a spreadsheet with all the interests and offers that are coming in. So again, rather than like me getting emails from universities and going, well, I don't know if that's good or not, we'll tell you the school, the state, the coach, how many internationals, academic reputation, what the cost could be, what the scholarship could be, what our recommendations are, so that rather than wasting your time or a coach's time in a school that would never be a good fit for you, we just focus on those that are. So as I said, you might start with thousands of schools, but maybe only 250 are looking for a player in your position and have that scholarship and have that major within that location. And then of those, you know, are they ticking all the boxes? You might get down to like 20 or 30. And then from that, you might filter out further based on your preferences, so that therefore you're only focusing your time on 5 to 10, having those discussions like this over Zoom or Skype. And also, you know, we'd never want to send someone to a place where they're the only international on a roster, because I was on a team when there was like 8 to 10 English guys at all times throughout the 4 years. And it really helped, because as much as the experience is amazing, there are times when you miss home, particularly in your first year. And having those people that are going through the same experience as you at the same time really helped for me personally. So therefore, you know, let's get you to talk to some of their international athletes as well, because as much as the coach will be telling you, like, you've just signed for Real Madrid, maybe an English player or, you know, a British player is going to say, actually it's boring, there's not much to do when you're not playing football, those type of things. And the reason why we're just being careful with that is because the last thing we want to do is you to commit yourself to a school where you're not going to enjoy it. You know, the whole aim for us is to send you a school, you enjoy it, you develop as a player, you develop as an athlete, and you come out with a degree at a fraction of the cost that it would have had you gone to the UK. That's what we're all hoping for. So, you know, we don't want to send you somewhere where after year 1 you're going to go, Liam, I want to move because I'm not really happy here. Yes, we would help you with that. But by being careful and being selective to begin with, it makes the whole process a lot easier. And yeah, after year 1, when I was in America, I was doing fairly well. I was paying $8,000. So my school was $40,000 a year, dollars, tuition, food, and housing. My scholarship covered around $32,000, so I was left paying about $8,000 a year. I do realise that's still a significant amount of money. I did get other offers close to zero, but they just weren't a good fit for me. And how I was able to make that work was by working on campus as well. But yeah, after year 1, other schools were saying, look, Liam, if you come here, you know, you could pay close to nothing. So I naturally wanted to explore those options. But yeah, the company I went through wanted more money to help me. So I said, just give me the video footage, I'll do it myself. But they wanted money for the footage as well. So it was clear that they didn't have my best interests at heart at all. So it was a really bad experience for me. As I said, once you're signed up to us, you're covered not only for the whole time leading up to when you go out to America, but also for the 4 years, you've got that full support. And even beyond, if you look at people like Ellie, who have obviously gone on and joined the company as well. So we make sure that we're there for athletes throughout the time. Again, going back to the reason being is that's the type of service we would have wanted and expected when we went out to America. There's payment plans not only for us, but also when I'm talking about $8,000 a year, that's $4,000 every 6 months while I was out there for tuition, food, and housing. But I was quite fortunate enough to be earning close to that anyway, hence why I was able to come out debt free. So the big thing for us is providing that ongoing career support. We've talked about the athlete database, we've talked about the athlete area, we've talked about the university database. There's another one of our players, Milo, who will not appreciate that I've put that Christmas hat on him. But yeah, hopefully you'll already see the value in using a company like us. We only offer 25 places per year, per sport, per gender. We've been doing it for over 10 years, including the time while we were out there. 100% success on athlete placements for those that are committed to going out there. Oops, sorry, I think some people are having issues coming in and out of the seminar. And as I said, we've secured over $20 million. And when we talk about full scholarships, some of you will have heard of that. That means that the cost of tuition, food and housing is covered, which, yeah, I'm sure parents, that sounds amazing. I would say it doesn't mean it's going to be the right school for you. It could be in the middle of nowhere with a terrible academic and terrible football program. So about a quarter of our players do go out to America on a full scholarship. And again, the caveat is, I mean, I had full scholarship offers, but they weren't the right schools for me. But it is a good indication that it can be an amazing opportunity to go to university at costs close to nothing. To put it into perspective, over 90% of our players are paying under $10,000 a year. So again, that's for tuition, food and housing, and you're able to work on campus to reduce that. So some are paying zero, some are paying up to 10,000. But as you can imagine, the schools in America, some are as cheap as $10,000 a year all in, whereas some might be like my school, $40,000 up to $60,000 a year. So it's all comparative, and that's why it's key to find the right school for you academically, athletically, and financially. Obviously, we've got trial games this weekend. We talked about the athletes area and the 4 year support. I'm sure this all sounds amazing. You know, sign me up. I might have a beard and pretend that I'm younger and get out there again as well. But also getting a sore throat from talking too much. Hopefully that would have given you a chance to have a quick read of those guarantees. Is that unfortunately I can't, be here and go, I'm going to guarantee you that you're going to get X amount of offers from X amount of schools. I also can't say, I've seen you play, I've looked at your grades, you're going to get X percentage of scholarship. These are all questions that we often get. But obviously the caveat is, by offering the personal service, we're all experienced and we're confident we provide the best service in the industry with a personal touch to it, is that we can guarantee pretty much that, we're going to maximise your chances of getting the best scholarship offers and percentages at the best schools in the best locations. But no one can guarantee that, because obviously, as I said, as much as I can say, look, Ellie's a superstar, look at that. If the coach hasn't got budget, if the coach isn't looking for that position, or if the coach doesn't have the level of interest or enthusiasm about that player as I do, then it's not going to happen. So there's an element of luck in that as well. Okay, so, and another key thing is, if you're coming into this process, yes, we're here to guide you through that process and provide our professional support. But there's also a lot on you as an athlete. It's a big decision. It's a big decision for you and your family. There are going to be obviously financial implications to that. But also, what grades are you getting? You might have already done your GCSEs, but if you do really well in your BTECs or your A levels, that could increase your grade point average, which could mean you qualify for more academic scholarship. How you do in the trial games, how you do when we film you play. This is all going to help. How much you prepare for the entrance exams, what you score on the entrance exams, what your preferences are for a school, how conversations go with coaches. I'm sure you've all had that coach that you probably didn't like. And the minute I say that, I'm sure a coach comes to mind for everyone, but football's a subjective sport. So you'll soon know after 10, 20-minute chat, either from a player's perspective or a parent, if, hang on a minute, I'm not sure if this coach is the right parental figure to develop my child as a player and an athlete, or as a player, I'm not sure about what he's saying with his training schedule or the style of play that he wants to employ. So all these type of things are going to be key. And then ultimately, mum and dad or your cousins or your friends or me or one of my colleagues might say, well, if that was me, I would go for that school. But ultimately, everyone's different. I wanted to live in downtown Chicago. Ellie went to Davis and Elkins in West Virginia, or Milo wanted to go to Rocky Mountain in Montana. Everyone's got different preferences. This slide is probably a bit too intense. There's a lot going on here for this time on a Friday evening, but I'll send you the slides. You can download the slides from the website as well, but it just gives you a very rough gauge on how kind of the divisions do stack up. But I guess the key message here also comes back to keeping an open mind, because again, there's top programs within each of those divisions. And just to highlight that, I wouldn't expect you, don't worry, the second part of that Christmas quiz isn't to identify what schools these logos are from. But the key thing here is these are all top programs, and that we've placed players at top NCAA, D1, D2 schools, NAIA schools, and NJCAA. So, you know, regardless of what your academic and your athletic profile, obviously the athletic profile is most important, that you're a good player. But whether your academics vary, you know, we can find the right school for you. Hall of Fame. So every year we have one student athlete that is inducted, and they have to have excelled and won awards both academically and athletically to do so. And I said I'd embarrass both of these. I will go through quickly because, well, Ellie's not bothered to join us. No, obviously she's working hard still. And there's another seminar that Matt's actually on, so I'd recommend watching them too. But Matt is a great example of what can be achieved as well, more than what I achieved, in fact. So he came to a trial back in 2015. He was good. He was very quick. He was raw. I thought he was a good player. I didn't think this guy's going to go on to be a professional. But he's someone who, because of America, was able to go to a school. He went to an NCAA D2 school on a full scholarship. And he did 3 years there, and he was absolutely killing it at West Virginia Wesleyan. And then it came to his third year, and again, this highlights how we support our athletes for the whole time while they're out there, is that he thought, you know what, I could potentially want to go professional at the end of this. So at the end of the 3 years, he played in the summer. He got 14 goals in 12 games, which is not bad for someone who wasn't even playing as a forward. And then we transferred him to Missouri State, which is one of the top D1 programs in America. In fact, during Matt's season, I think they won 19 out of 19 during the regular season. And Matt got 20 goals. So there was no surprise at the end of it when Matt did get drafted into Major League Soccer. Unfortunately, that's all been put on hold in terms of his contract because of COVID. However, you know, he went through the MLS draft, and he is signed up to an agency, and, you know, he's got other professional offers that have come through as well. So, but again, didn't neglect his academics. As you can see, he got a 3.9 grade point average, with the top being a 4.0. So he's got his economics degree, even if he doesn't go on to become a professional. Sorry, overseas. Okay. Apologies about that. Is that he's got that degree from a top university, and also he's had that experience of playing in front of thousands at one of the best teams in America, and then got drafted into Major League Soccer as well. So unbelievable success story for us, and also what an experience for Matt. Someone who was told he wasn't good enough at Colchester United at, you know, 15 has gone on to, you know, at 22, 23 be a professional. So an amazing story there. And then Ellie Rossiter, again, she'll be at the trial tomorrow for those women, for the women's trial in Needham. Talked a little bit about Ellie anyway, but as I said, she played at an NCAA D2 program. Before that, she was at Ipswich Town Women, and in fact, she's now back playing for Ipswich Town Women. And again, also, she's now working for us. So she really has gone full circle. She's come back a better player. She's got a degree. She's now finishing her master's degree. So I think she wouldn't mind me saying that, yeah, again, this opportunity has completely changed her life. Okay, so top FAQs. So you'll be happy to know, because we're now reaching an hour, I've gone through all the key information of the process, us as a company, and I really appreciate that you've all stuck with me throughout that. Really do appreciate it, particularly on a Friday. I'll go through the FAQs, we'll wrap it up, and then, you know, any questions you've got, do let me know. We already know you're eligible from a player's perspective if you're listening, otherwise you wouldn't be on the call. Highlight videos we've talked about, gap year you can take, we've talked about SAT, we've talked about what can you study in America. A lot of people think because it's a sports scholarship, you have to study like sports science or something sports related. That isn't the case. I did a business degree. Some of our athletes do maths, English, engineering, architecture, you know, whatever it is that you want to study, you can do so, as long as the university you're looking to go to offers that as a major. Ideal time to apply is 1.5 to 2 years in advance, and hopefully from the seminar you've seen why it is good to start as early as possible. I know some of you will be thinking, well, I'm looking to go next year and that's only 10 months away. Don't worry, we still can place players, but as I said, and hopefully what you'll see is the earlier you sign, the more scholarships are available, because some schools are already done with 2021, are already focusing on 2022. So the earlier you start, the more chances are that there's more scholarships available. What determines how much scholarship you get? As I said, when I went into the process, I thought, oh, I'm a good footballer, so I'll get a good scholarship. Unfortunately, that is not that simple. Academics can be just as important. I had 50% of my scholarship because I was an international, and then 50% because I was on the soccer team. My academics didn't actually get me any scholarship, even though I had decent grades and I had a decent SAT score. But we've got other athletes who actually, ironically, don't get any athletic scholarship and are on a full academic scholarship based on their academics and their SAT score. So there's various different varieties, and there's no clean-cut formula for that because every university is slightly different. Other costs you can expect, as I said, there's entrance exams that are around $100 to do. You can sit more than once, but I'm sure once would be enough for you. However, in all seriousness, you know, if you needed to get a SAT score in order to be eligible or in order to qualify for additional scholarship, you could sit it more than once. You've got eligibility centres, which are about $150 each. That's for NCAA and NAIA. Obviously your flights, health insurance, you know, now more than ever, people are really appreciative of the NHS and all the work they do. Once you're in a country that doesn't have a national health system, you soon realise the complications there can be with that. So it's important you have health insurance. There could be transcript evaluations, so evaluation of your certificates, converting them into American, and then obviously getting your visa as well, which is around £500. But, you know, it's a one-time thing that could, you know, give you a 5-year visa. And then, as I've said kind of throughout, the reason how I was able to make it work, and pretty much 99% of our athletes in America are, are working on campus. So a student visa enables you to work on campus. So whether that's in the gym or helping your coach or in the library, the cafeteria, the restaurant, you know, there's going to be hundreds of jobs at most universities. And because the uni realizes that you can't go off campus and get a job, you'll usually, you know, get first dibs in terms of getting a job on campus. What is next? So obviously the key thing for most of you that are listening, the players, is we've got a women's soccer trial in Needham near Ipswich tomorrow, and we've got a men's soccer trial in Norwich in Norfolk on Sunday. So that's obviously perfect opportunity for those of you that haven't met us before, so we can see you play in person. And obviously we've got individual interviews following that afterwards as well. I'm pretty sure you've all done applications already. What else have we got here? If anyone is to sign as well on the back end of it because you've attended the seminar, my colleague's taken note of it as well, you get £100 off our Premier Athlete package. So that is a Christmas special. At this point, I would like to say really thank you for your time. I did say I'd be 45 minutes. I've gone a little bit over, but for those of you that know me, probably not surprised on that. I hope you found it beneficial and informative. Let me just stop sharing my screen quickly now. At this stage, welcome you to unmute yourselves and feel free to talk as well. If anyone has any questions about anything that I've covered tonight on the seminar, please do feel free to ask immediately now, or if you don't feel comfortable asking in front of everyone, drop it in the chat and I'll be able to see it on there. Or if you just feel like you've either got a private meeting with myself or one of my colleagues after the game on Saturday or Sunday, we can obviously address that there. I will quickly have a sip of my drink and give people the opportunity to either type a message in there or feel free to start speaking and ask one. Don't get any questions. I will take that as that I've absolutely smashed it this evening and you feel like you know everything about America.
There's only 9 on there, there was 11.
If or I will take it that you want to catch up with us either at the trial games, which makes sense, or following the trial game. I get that Saturday, Sunday following it, particularly people aren't going to want to hang around with everything that's going on. So, you know, we can arrange to have a call next week as well. Okay, so my colleagues are telling me that we haven't had any other comments come through, and the questions and comments that we did have come through, I have done well because apparently I have covered them throughout the seminar. So at this stage, I just want to say a huge thanks to everyone for joining me tonight. You know, enjoy the rest of your Friday evening, and for those of you that are playing tomorrow, obviously we're super excited to see you. Hopefully you all got the emails about the trials in terms of what to expect from the trial. So make sure that if you're at the women's one, bring your own shorts and socks. We'll supply the match shirts. do not wear blades because it's on an AstroTurf pitch. There will not be showers. There will be a room in which you can get changed in if you need to. I think that's kind of the key things on that one. And then with the men's one, actually, the full kit will be provided. But again, no showers. There will be a change room if you need it. I have had a question come through, so I appreciate that. A new question's come through, and it's about, are you locked into a contract after, with the uni? And it's a great question. So yes, they send you over what's called a national letter of intent. Once you sign that, you are committed to that school for that first year, to the point where if you actually decided before you go over there you want to change your mind, most you would probably get deducted a season from playing. So if you move to the other school, you wouldn't be able to play in your first year. So it is kind of like a binding contract between both parties, which makes sense because obviously they're potentially giving you a huge scholarship to play for the university. So they need something that's binding so that you don't say, yeah, I'm going to come to your school, and then the week before go, actually, I'm not, I'm going to go to another school. So that's legally binding there. Hopefully I answered that okay. Okay, so we had another question, so really appreciate that. What's the difference between an SAT and an ACT? Really good question. They're basically both equivalency, so they're both entrance exams to get into American schools. They're going to be accepted at every single university or college. The ACT is like a more of a European equivalent to the SAT. So it's scored out of 36, whereas the SAT is scored out of 1600. So it's different formats. It's weighted the way they do the ACT. But to be eligible, you just need to get 18 on the ACT for NAIA, for example. So that's the difference between them. It's just the formatting, but they're both testing you on English and maths. They're probably both not much fun for studying for either, but they are a crucial part of the process. That's 4-year schools that are going to require you to take the ACT or the SAT. If you look to go to a 2-year school, you wouldn't need to take the entrance exam. Got another question here. For the men's trial, what boots? Because obviously I talked about you're not allowed blades for the women's game. For the men's game, I asked the same question, and our partners at Football Industry College said it doesn't really matter. Whatever boots you want to wear is absolutely fine. So hopefully that's cleared that up in terms of SAT and contracts. Are there any other questions from anyone? Someone else had asked a question as well, which I appreciate. I'm not ignoring you, but it was a similar question. So I hope that I've answered both there at the same time. That being said, I'll give you another 30 seconds in case any other questions come to mind. I also realise that often I'll do this and go, any questions? And everyone's thinking, well, you've just given me a 5-year journey in an hour and thrown that at me, and I'm now trying to deal with it. So I get there's a lot of information going into this. So as I said, we can catch up at the trial games if you think of any other questions, or we can arrange a time next week, either one or myself or one of my colleagues. I had another question about the trial on Sunday. So for the women's trial, I think we're expecting between 16 to 18 trialists, and then we'll be playing against Needham under 17 squad. And then for the game on Sunday, there won't be an opponent. It will be a trial and signed player game only. And at the minute, we're expecting 32 players. So there will be rotation, but most of our games at a trial last 120 minutes to make sure everybody gets enough time to play in their preferred position. Okay, no other questions coming in. It's almost like an auction. So going, oh, no, have we got any more? Going once, going twice, going 3 times. Okay, cool. Well, yeah, really appreciate everyone joining. Hope you found it beneficial. Hope you enjoyed the Christmas quiz. I will pass that on to my colleague that put that together, that it was the highlight of the Friday evening for everybody. And in all seriousness, really look forward to seeing you either at this trial these weekends or future ones. And as I said, any questions about safety protocol, social distancing, how we're following government guidelines at these trials, do let me or my colleagues know. And most of you should have access to my work WhatsApp, so feel free to shoot me a message on there. If not, my email address, which is liam@ussportsscholarships.com. And yeah, look forward to speaking to you soon. Have a great evening, and thanks again. Bye-bye.